You're listening to the Art of Quantum Healing podcast with your host, Leisa Nadler. Each week we'll be welcoming divine souls who have overcome trauma, mental health addiction, and found next level abundance through mind, body, and soul connection. We will be going deep on one subject to teach and guide you. My mission is to help you high vibe, thrive with inner peace, passion, and purpose, all in the name of evolution. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Art of Quantum Healing. Today we have the beautiful Krystal Holm and we're going to be going deep on Feng Shui. And I'm really excited for this because I don't actually know a lot about Feng Shui, but anyway, we'll get into it in a minute. I just wanted to introduce a little bit about the beautiful Krystal. Krystal is a Feng Shui design and clutter expert who helps soul-driven leaders declutter and design a workspace that empowers them to create the life and business they want. Using her proprietary framework, the Design Life Method, Mind, Body and Soul Home, she helps her clients design spaces and live lives they love. Krystal shows women how to use their workspace as a 3D vision board to help them design who they are becoming and the life they want with it, right into their space. Manifestation at its best. Woo-woo! Krystal serves up straight talk wrapped in love. I love that. After all, she understands entrepreneurs' challenges, decluttering the limiting beliefs that hold us back from what is possible, shifting the energy in our environment to align with our soul-driven mission, to create the life we are dreaming about with intention and purpose, and making an impact creating the world we want to live in today. Fuck, does the world need that? Welcome, beautiful.
Thank you so much for having me. I have to say, the world needs a whole lot of that.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, like, just even the simple word, the clutter, I always say that a person's environment is their mind. Like, if your mind is like crazy and crowded and big and so much going on, usually your house is the same, or there's some part of your life that you need to declutter. So I simply love that. So tell us a little bit about you. How did you get into the work that you're doing?
Well, I was always into interior design. It was sort of always my thing. Even when I was a little girl, like I would play with Barbie Dreamhouse and rearrange the furniture all the time. I would rearrange my bedroom all the time. I was always just rearranging my room. My friends would, even as like a teenager, like my friends would call me, hey, help me come paint, or I've moved, help me rearrange. I was just always that girl that was just rearranging my space and decorating my space. And so I went to school to become an interior designer. But energy and manifestation and all of that had kind of been a side passion of mine as well. And so I had heard of Feng Shui, but I didn't really know a lot about it. And then as I was going to school to become an interior designer, in my psychology class, I had to write a psychology paper on something to do with my field of study. And so I chose to actually write the paper on the psychology of like your space, of Feng Shui in your space, and sort of how it all works, right? It was a nice moment to be like, ooh, let me look into something I'm interested in, that when you're in college, you don't have a lot of free time to study extra stuff, So like I'd heard about Feng Shui, but I didn't have time to go digging into it and really learning about it.
But you were intrigued. It was something that really sparked your intuition. Like, oh, hang on. Yeah.
Right. I mean, I knew it had to do like with your home, and I knew it had to do with like the flow of energy of your space and stuff, but I didn't really feel like I knew a lot about it. And I had to write this psychology paper. And so I kind of came at Feng Shui from a very different way than most people do. But as I was writing this paper and I was sort of studying it and kind of learning about it, I was definitely intrigued to be able to start incorporating it in, like seeing how I could make it work. Because I had tried all sorts of different types of manifestation techniques, throughout my life to be able to just sort of manifest the vision, right? Make the dream come to life. I think we all kind of do that. And so
sometimes we're unaware of we're even doing it. That's why it turns up the opposite. You're like, hang on, I didn't fucking ask for that. Oh my God, and here it is. What the hell?
Exactly. And so, but but I really I like what they taught about Feng Shui and what I was kind of reading, and I was intrigued. So, but I was still in college. So I just sort of started applying it like to my own self and trying to figure it out in my own space.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of confusing information out there, right? Like I would read one book and it said one thing, and I would read a book and I would read something else. And I was like, this doesn't make any sense to me, but I don't have time to focus on it. Like I got to finish college, so that I can get a good job. And so I finished school. I was moving forward into my career. I moved overseas, and I was working as an interior designer for a high-end residential design firm, and we had a lot of international clients.
Ooh,
and
yep.
Yes,
I know what's coming next.
and so I had actually just started at this firm, and literally within the first few weeks that I'd started there, the owner pulled the entire design team together and was like, one of the designs they had submitted to one of their clients in China, the client sent it back saying they couldn't accept it because the Feng Shui was all wrong.
They're all about the Feng Shui, aren't they? And that
yes. Well, that's where it originates, is in China. That's kind of where they discovered it and studied it and created everything about it, all the information about it. And she didn't know anything. And so she was just like, can anybody help? Who can do this? And I was the only person on the entire design team.
You girl on the block.
And volunteer, right? And I was like, well, I mean, I wanted to prove myself, I wanted to, not so much show that I deserved the job, but, like I wanted to shine. I wanted my moment in the sun. And so, and so I was like, I'll do it. I can.
Make anybody else.
Right. But oh my gosh, the imposter syndrome kicked in. Because I had no idea how much the client knew about Feng Shui. I knew they knew enough to know it was wrong, but I had no idea if I knew what was right. I still was trying to piece it all together, like just from different books. So I was like,
as you said, everything was different. There was so many different angles coming at it. So who's to say that they were looking at a different angle to you? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But I got to take on the lead role. Like I got to literally take the whole project and redo the thing. And this was this was a big moment, not just in my whole career, and at this particular job and my career as a whole. So it was and I really fell in love with the energetic alignment of the space to the client and the aesthetics of making it what they want and making hiding the Feng Shui in plain sight, which is what you're really supposed to do. And I just fell in love with it. And but like I said, I still just felt like I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
And so I actually found a school that taught traditional Chinese Feng Shui. And so I started taking classes. While I was still working as an interior designer, I took classes to learn Feng Shui. And then so I knew what I was doing. And then I was like, okay, now I need guinea pigs, right? I need guinea pigs. Somebody help me. And so I happened to be in I was in a year-long coaching program at the time. I was sort of on my healing journey from my own childhood trauma, the stuff that I had to overcome to really be able to break through all of that. And so I was in this coaching program, and I was working with, I think there was 30 something women, and all of them were like, yeah, I want to work with you. And at the time it was working on finding love in your life, right? Creating love, finding love. And so I was learning all sorts of things about that. And I had all these clients that were like, let me help them. And they were all over the world. So I was kind of figuring out how to do this virtually to be able to, work with them. And they all would get stuck in the same spot. They would all get stuck in the decluttering part. And I was like, and Feng Shui talks about clutter. Yeah, it talks about clutter, and it talks about how clutter stagnates the energy, and it sort of talks about that relationship, but it doesn't really dive into clutter. And And so I did, because that was like, well, all of my clients are stuck here. I've never been stuck here myself. I've always had a really easy time decluttering. I have whole systems around decluttering. Like, so I would just sort of coach them through, and then I would go do more research on stuff. And I started finding like the psychology of it. And like you were saying in the beginning, the clutter is the psychology part. It is the mindset part, because your space is all the reflection of what's internally in you. The clutter is all the limiting beliefs and all that.
And
so
that's
I
a
started
huge
like,
realization. That's a massive realization. I just want to go back on one thing you said before. You talked about the imposter syndrome, and I just want to touch on it for the audience. So what happens with the sneaky little imposter syndrome? It's not only ego, but it's also when you're about to have a massive up level, or when you're about to go into beyond the fear that you're in now, these little voices come up, and that's a lot of times why you self-sabotage yourself. So it's great that Krystal realized that, oh my God, this is imposter syndrome, because this is why a lot of times it takes you back to where you are, because you go back to your comfy zone. So she could have gone back to a comfy zone and not done it, but by pushing through, following the nudges, look at her now. So that's a really important, I just wanted to really touch on that, because it's not many people actually do talk about the imposter syndrome or understand it, and it can stop you, it can paralyze you, it can self-sabotage the shit out of you, cause you overwhelm, whatever your emotions are. So it could have absolutely taken you back from where you are, but look at you push through, you taught, you keep moving and moving and moving, and now you are just you become an expert in your field, which is key. It's absolute key.
yeah,
Keep going.
yeah, it really
Excited.
is.
She's like, oh, where was I?
I forgot what I was saying. It was like, where was I? No, I totally forgot where I was.
But it was just I really wanted to talk about that. So then you found all the different people, and you realized the cluttering of the mind. So it was an absolute reflection of psychology. Yeah.
Yeah, it truly is. I mean, and they, even in my Feng Shui classes, they would talk about it, but they didn't really deep dive into it. And so for me, I got to sort of go back to the beginning, right, and dive into the psychology stuff. And it's kind of funny. I almost went to school to become a forensic psychologist instead of becoming an interior designer. So I found my way.
The other, was there a tipping point that you went from one rather than the other, or was it just oh no, this feels better?
When I finally went to school, honestly, and this is funny, I don't think I've ever told this story before, like really in depth like this. The I had I had been unemployed. I was unemployed for like 6 months or so. A whole bunch of shit happened and I was unemployed. And I was like, okay, I need a job, and I couldn't really find anything. And I went through this massive depression.
Yep.
Because I'd made a stupid decision and I beat myself up about it, and I trusted somebody that I shouldn't have, and I quit my job, and I was in like a horrible situation. And so I wasn't happy with really much of anything in my life. I really wasn't. And so I decided to go back to school, but I was like, what do I want to go to school for? And I was literally sitting on the sofa all day, every day in my sweatpants, watching, and I'm going to date myself a little bit here, Trading Spaces. Do you remember that show?
Yes,
where it was all about the neighbors would trade and they would do the interior design. And I would watch that show all day long, every day. I would literally just watch nothing but the home and garden channel. And I would watch, and I love Trading Spaces, and that would be on for hours every day. Like I could just watch that for hours and hours and hours. And I would be judging the designs, and I would be like, this is what they should have done, and this would be better. And I would, and I would be, and then I would be like, oh, I have to figure out what to go to school for. Like, what do I go to school for? And I don't know.
It's right in front of you.
Like, right. And then I got this brilliant idea to like call. I was like, oh, I'll get a job as an interior designer. I'm good at that. Right. And I called a couple of design firms, and they were all like, you have to have a degree. So I'm like, well, here we go. I guess I'll go to school to become an interior designer.
Isn't it funny how things can be pushed like right in front of your face, and you're like, what should I do? What should I do? And that's the thing. We get such clear messages and direction, but if we don't follow it, then, you could have gone the other way and been like, oh, good God, what the hell did I do this degree for? But it aligned you. It's so, I love it. It's just brilliant.
Right. I think I would have found my way here anyway.
Absolutely.
Just because both of them were my journey to healing, right? I found the psychology part as I came back around, and I would be coaching my clients through at the time, I was working with clients specifically to use Feng Shui to find love in their life, right? To create a love in their life. And so I was coaching them through this stuff, and we were all in a coaching program to heal that relationship. But I was then coaching them even deeper in their clutter and in the psychology of things, and why they were so stuck. And I was like, even just learning from my own self. You know how you just have these, it's like it's just like divine words coming through, and they would talk to me and I would just be talking to them, and all of a sudden I would be like, I have no idea where that came from, but I am brilliant. Like, I am so amazing. Like, where did this come from? And they would have these amazing breakthroughs, and I was just like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And
I love it.
and it
You're
was
in line when you're actually channeling exactly what they need. All the ancient wisdom is just flying through.
right. And I started studying more on the side, and I was like, let me learn more about clutter, and let me read books on like what. And back then there wasn't it. Now there's dozens of books on it and you can find them everywhere, but back then there wasn't. So it was just like, let me, how do I figure this out? Like, and learning, and they would talk to me, and then I would be like, okay, let me go pick this apart and analyze it, and really, like, I was doing psychology on them, like, after I would be done, and I would be analyzing the whole thing and how it went, and how could I make it better for next time, and how could I really help them through. And I was kind of trying to solve it for them. And then I moved back from overseas,
Right.
And I was, business was starting to take off, but it wasn't quite taking off fast enough, right? And so I was still working full time as a designer, and I was just sort of starting this business coaching, interior design thing, Feng Shui thing, like on the side. I wasn't 100% sure like what it was going to look like yet, and exactly what I wanted it to be. I just knew I wanted it to be something, and I was like, when it was just the one thing, I'm like, it's not enough. There's like missing pieces to the puzzle, and I was getting them, but they were coming like slowly.
Yeah.
And then I hurt myself at work, and I hurt myself really badly. I tore a tendon in my groin, and I couldn't walk anymore. I really couldn't. I was in a lot of pain. My body just deteriorated really rapidly. And it was a workman's comp injury. So I had to go through this David and Goliath battle with the insurance company to try to get any sort of, basic medical care. They really did everything they could to try to get me to quit, like to drive me off, to run me away, to just get me to give up so that they wouldn't have to pay out anything. And so that went on it for almost 3 years. It took almost 3 years for me to get surgery that I needed, with the whole, battle of, you're lying, you're making it up, there's nothing wrong with you, go to this doctor, and have them, try to say that you're lying, and go to this one and go to that. And it was just a big nightmare. And so all of my business kind of got put on hold. At the same time, it was like, well, now I don't have a job to interfere. And so I have 100% of my time to dedicate towards my business. But I was like, it wasn't working. Like, I was getting stuck. My body was stuck. Like, I was deteriorating. And even though I had all my time now, my job was no longer getting in the way of trying to run a business. I wasn't getting anywhere. I started getting really, really stuck. And I ended up having to kind of shove it all, put everything on hold to just heal my own body. And I create.
When you realize that you come to a real pivotal crossing point in your life, and you surrender to what you actually need in that moment, then you do it allows the energy and the frequency to open you up to, okay, so this is where I am, I'm fucking surrendering, I just need to go with it, and I'll learn the lessons on the other side, and just go with the flow. And I guarantee things started opening up, and it was like, oh, this is where I'm actually supposed to be. Oh, but I've been fighting it, which is what we do.
Yes,
we like to have control. Oh,
yes,
unbelievable.
And that's exactly what happened for almost 2 years, from the injury until I ended up it was almost 2 years, almost to the day. And I was so stuck. I couldn't do anything. I was pretty much in a wheelchair. Like I couldn't get a wheelchair from the medical people, but I had to use like the little motor scooters because I couldn't actually walk by myself. I could get from my bed to the bathroom and to the sofa, but I couldn't go to the store. I couldn't go shopping. I couldn't really do much of anything. And I ended up, I had created this Feng Shui space for healing. And I put everything, I had to shelve everything about my business. I put it all on hold. I was like, I give up. I can't do it anymore. It's not working.
Work me.
And 6 months, within 6 months.
Boom!
Right. Within 6 months from that, I had surgery.
Yeah.
The surgery that I finally needed, or surgery that I needed finally after, it was 31 months. So just about 3 years. I finally had the surgery, and I finally had figured out like all of the, what is it that I really wanted, right? Because I had been working with women to help them find love. And then I made a major pivot to working with women who were starting their businesses and that entrepreneurship, and helping them use Feng Shui to really, create wealth and prosperity and peace in their life. And so
what you just gave yourself the gift. And that's what I believe that we teach. What I had through is what we teach. I always look at myself and go, okay, so my clients are me 6 months ago. And that's who I'm calling it. And it also, when you do that, it helps you to grow, because you're constantly wanting to and needing to and becoming a better version of you for your clients. So it's interesting, isn't it? And the minute you set that energetic frequency of, okay, well, this is it. Off we go. Boom, 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 boom. But for 2 years, you fought it. Oh!
For 2 years, I fought it, and I was so stuck. And I was so physically stuck too. Not just like my business was, my mindset was stuck. I had so much stuff going on. It just the trauma of going through that experience, right? In having my self-worth just demolished around, you're not worth going to the doctor. Like our bottom line says you don't need this. Like it brought up so much from my childhood. There was so much in there to unpack.
Healing.
And I wasn't able to move. Like my body was stuck. I literally couldn't walk anywhere.
Deal with it.
Right. And so but it really gave me the opportunity to, it was a beautiful gift, because it gave me the opportunity to refine all of the other things, right? Like I said, I always was a decluttering person, but I'd never been stuck like this before. So now all of those wonderful clients that I had gotten to learn from, now all of a sudden I was stuck, and I got to take what they had taught me about clutter and getting unstuck, and then get to go like teach it to myself and then use it and go forward. And it really helped me to refine all of how I work with clients and everything that I do with them now, and in the future. But it was, it was just.
And is this how you discovered the design life method? This is how this all came together, was in those pivotal 6 months of everything starting to shift, when you were lying there healing, wanting to kill someone, wanting to strangle anything, fuck the world, and all this sort of carry on. You realized, and it all just started clicking into place when you just went, okay. So tell us about the design life method.
Yep, when I just shelved it. So the design life method, mind, body, soul, home, is my method of how I work with clients, because the mind, like I said, clutter is related to the mind. It's 100% an expression of everything that you think and believe. Well, everything that you own.
Right? This is our home. Our mind, our body is actually our home.
Right. You live 100% of your life in your body and in your own mind.
Their external environment and their materialistic stuff and everything is their home. No.
It's an extension. It's actually it is an energetic extension of this physical body. It's an energetic extension. So everything we buy, everything we own, everywhere we put it, how we put it in our space, how we decorate our space, not even that we buy, the things that we acquire and then won't get rid of, can't get rid of, are stuck with, all of those things reflect everything that's going on. And so when I am helping clients to declutter and design their space, we always start with the decluttering part, But that is where we start in with the coaching too, because that's where people get stuck in their stories of what's keeping them stuck. It's all reflected in their clutter. So I get to teach them first my Declutter Your Mindset method, and we get to really, really dive in to like what their clutter is telling them about what's keeping them stuck. And that is life-changing, was what most people call it. And then we move into the body part, right? Because like for me, I had to design this 3D vision board to create a self-care space. One of the things I learned in my high-end residential design career, working with a lot of billionaire entrepreneurs, like companies that are household names, you know, that are worth billions of dollars. When I worked with the owners of those companies and the CEOs of those companies, I got to see behind the scenes how they work, how they live.
Powerful. That is,
and
so
they all have self-care
environment.
spaces in their office, right? They have those self-care spaces, and they're doing that in their everything, and they're carving that out. So we create that in as part of the work that we do together. We really design who they are becoming and what that is going to look like in their space. Like, what is the space that that person requires, so that we can design it. And then the Feng Shui, getting energetically into alignment, because your home is an extension of you and your energetic frequency. But the building itself has its own energetic frequency. And so you have to be in alignment with that energetic frequency, so you're not having a clash and a conflict all the time, right? So that you can, you feel the peace of your space, and not feeling, have you ever walk into a space and you just you just tighten up, and it makes you.
Well, so I'm house sitting. Like, I'm now what they call a professional house sitter. Like, I move from house to house to house, looking after the animals and looking after houses. And some houses I walked into, and there's no judgment anybody else, because this is their beautiful space, and I'm very grateful to be in every one. But sometimes you walk in and you go, and I can just pick it now. I'm like, oh, this person has a very busy mind, or wow. And you feel, there was one there's only been one that I walked into and went, whoa, I need to sage this house. Like, it's really heavy. There's been some stuff going on, and you can and beautiful sayings up everywhere, and you can feel the lightness, you can feel the love in the house, and that's just beautiful. Beautiful.
And some of them are, there's, houses have birth dates too, just like humans do. And just like,
really?
They do. Yeah, they do. And just like humans, like I'm a Leo. I have certain traits that are you? Yeah, I love Leos, right? I have certain traits that are common to Leos, right? And so my house might be a Gemini, right? Or a Scorpio. And similarly, it's the same idea, right? This is an easy way for me to explain it. Similarly, we might clash. The energy of the house might clash. You might have just been walking into a house that you clashed with, right? Energetically. And so that wouldn't be the space for you to live in unless we remedied it. To align that energy with your energy signature.
Yeah, because there was no flow when I was working. There was no creativeness, and I found I was in my masculine energy a lot. Excuse me. I couldn't get into my feminine. It was like every time I tried, it was a stickiness, and it was like, ooh. So there's something going on, right?
Right. It's basically like there's East Coast, there's East people and there's West people. There's East houses, there's West houses. It's sort of like a battery, right? You know how on a battery you have the red and then the black? And when you go to charge them, you have to charge the red cord to the red post and the black cord to the black post. It's the same thing. If you try to mix those up and do the black, if you're like a black cord on a red post, you're going to feel it. That's what you walked into. You walked into feeling like a black cord on a red post.
Love that analogy. I've never heard of that analogy. It's great.
But you can feel it when you walk into spaces. And so we need to do the alignment to if you happen to live in one that is, like I say, you're black and your house is red, or vice versa, you're red and your house is black. That's just an easy way to do it. And you can't move into something that aligns with you better. We have to remedy it using Feng Shui to get you into alignment.
Love it.
But even if you're a black person in a black house, or a red person in a red house, you know what I mean? Or a red person in a red house, East person, West house, West person, even if that, there will still be east-west inside the house. So there will still be 50% of the areas that are somewhat draining to you and 50% of the areas that are uplifting to you. And so we want to align those energetically as well to correct anything. Every house has them. Every house needs them. It's not a thing. It's just like you have a front and you have a back.
Yeah.
You have a left and you have a right. It's the same. Your house is the same. And so we do then the energetic alignment, and then, and align it with your vision and your goals as a business owner, so that we are turning your space really into a 3D vision board, similar to what I did with creating a self-care space to heal my body. We're creating an office space to empower your business to create the life that you want. And so that's really what my method is all about. And we just deep dive using your space that way, so that you have room to become the next level version of you. Like, you have to have room to become her. So we just make that space for you to have that.
So it's like putting all these little missing pieces in place that align, because we do, like I always say, that the inside job is the most important job, but also when your external environment doesn't match the work that you're doing inside, which is the mind, body, soul, home, then it's energetic.
Yeah, it's because your home is a reflection.
Yeah, I love that. So it's energetic, all energetics.
A lot of people think you are a reflection of your space, but that is not true. Your space is a reflection of you. So when your space is all chaotic, you've got work to do internally, but you can do the work externally, and it will help to resolve the conflict internally. So it's just, and that's what I get to teach my clients, and how to really use their space, especially when they get stuck. And it's like, what am I stuck in right now? Like, sometimes you just don't know, like, I'm stuck, but I don't know where I'm stuck, and why am I not? Well, now I can look around my home and be like, aha, this is where I'm stuck. This is what's keeping me stuck. And now you have a tool to use to be able to get unstuck.
I love
that. Because we all live somewhere. Everybody lives somewhere. Even if you're homeless, you live somewhere.
I am technically homeless. I live in my car. It's cluttered.
But you have stuff that you take with you, right? And you are caring for the space that you are in. Just like me, when I move.
When I get to a place, I'm the same as you. I put my little altar out. I sage. I put beautiful smells in there. I put my crystals around. I create the beautiful space, and I actually move furniture. I'm going to make sure they come back. I mean, I don't move a lot, but I create it because whenever I step into a house, it's always quite heavy for me until I do those things. And then I go and ground straight out into the earth around it and connect to the earth around the actual house, because that's huge as well. I mean, it's your whole field. I know for me, when I had... it's when I talk about my wardrobe. I know for me that when I was doing a few really high level identity shifts, every time I put on my clothes, I was like, I just don't feel right. It was like, and I loved my clothes, beautiful wardrobe, but so I believe that everything holds energy, right? Which is pretty much energy, what you just said. So for me, when I was putting on these clothes, I wasn't feeling like the powerful woman that I was stepping into. That, like, and I also believe that you dress and you are for the next couple of levels of who you're wanting to be. So I was living in 5 levels back to what I was, and I know that I had a really big. I don't know if you teach this as well. I imagine you would, because it's all part of your external environment. But when I actually moved and changed my my wardrobe, and at the time I couldn't fucking afford it. Like, I was buying clothes and I was like, well, this feels like really but I know that really fast. I noticed a real fast shift into it. So that's a lot. Do you do that area? Because that's a lot like your house, isn't it?
I talk about all of that with my clients. When I do the work with my clients, very specifically, like, we work in 2 areas. We work in their office and we work in their bedroom. And then obviously we do the decluttering work that we do together tends to carry throughout their whole home. But the design work that we're doing together is specifically in their office. And then we do the work in their bedroom as well, because it is such an important component to health and wealth and life as an entrepreneur, right? As an entrepreneur, you're the number 1 asset in your company. Like, you have to take care of you, and that is where you recharge. That is where you rest, and it's incredibly important. The bedroom is
entrepreneurs don't, do they?
Right. The bedroom is. But as far as I'm concerned, the bedroom is the most important room in the home. especially for an entrepreneur, for everyone, but especially for an entrepreneur. That's where you spend a third of your day, you know, 8 hours of your day, hopefully, at least you should be spending 8 hours a day. But you know, that's where you go to plug in and rest and recharge, and you're absorbing the energy of that space all night long. And so the energy of that space, you know, we talk about it at length, because if what you're like, if you have clutter, like your clothes, right? Those clothes were clutter. So they were stagnating up your space, which is now it's like energy flows in your space like water, right? It flows in the air and it flows like water. Everything is made up of energy. It's everywhere on earth. You literally cannot get away from it. It flows everywhere through your space. But when you have clutter, like in your closet, or if you have like boxes of clothes under your bed, especially, that is where the energy will stagnate. So when you go to sleep there, you're like absorbing swamp water all night long. Like, who's getting recharged off of swamp water? Nobody. So like, we really dig in deep to the clutter spout, and we work on that for several months. And usually they will have time to go through pretty much everything in what they're digging through, and really learn my method and take it through. I have clients that I have worked with literally 10 years ago that I talked to a few months ago, and they still like, I still use your method. Powerful. I still use the decluttering thing. I still use what you taught me to declutter, because that is how powerful it is, and how effective it is.
Yeah. And I believe that as we should have lots of little tools in our toolbox, that when we're in a certain space, we can go, okay, so I need the decluttering method. Now I need this method. Now I need to do this. So we can absolutely go and shake and move wherever we feel intuitively led. And like, I know that when I have realized that, because I don't like the kitchen bench to have any, I like to be I love all my areas to be quite clear spaces, because I like to have an open flowing mind. And I know that when I walk into a room and I can't go to bed unless the kitchen's nice, I'm like, it puts an instant like in me, and it's like, oh, okay, no, I just need to clear the space and then everything will be fine. And so, and I know that when something comes up for me and I'm like, can't you just put this away, I know, okay, it's not about them, it's about me, what's going on, where is there somewhere that I'm not X, Y, Z, which is the beautiful stuff that you teach. So I absolutely love that. It's awesome. So if you could leave one thing with our audience, what would that be?
Declutter your space. Like, seriously, like, it's a thing. I mean, everybody has clutter, and if you are not moving at the speed you want to move, which is like the speed of light, right? If you're not becoming what you want to be immediately, then it's time to declutter, because you've got stuff that's keeping you stuck, right? And you you know it, you can feel it, you can feel the heaviness when you're stuck. And so if that's where you are, start decluttering, because it'll feel heavy in your body. But as you start to declutter your space, you'll start to feel that lightness in your body, and that will help get the flow going, the energy going, because it's the energy that's stuck, and it flows through you too, right? It flows through you and through your space. And if you are stuck, your space is stuck. And if you unstick your space, you will get unstuck.
Yeah, it's so good, isn't it? And as you're undoing that space, you're releasing things within you that are like, ooh, I'm such a huge believer in emotions trapped in the body. It's the main work that I do with the trauma work. And so what you do externally, is just,
and that, and I mean, that's even part of my decluttering. Like, my method is 5 steps, so that you going through that process of being able to disconnect and dissolve those relationships, because your physical clutter has a relationship to your mental and emotional clutter, and you need to disconnect and dissolve those connections, so that you can actually release the clutter and not just gain it all back again.
Hold on to it.
Right. It's very much like
shit to fill that clutter.
It is. That's exactly what happens. It's just like you lose 10 pounds and then you gain back 20. If you declutter without going through all 5 steps, and so many people want to skip from step 1 to step 5.
Instant gratification.
Right. And then they don't go through the middle steps. And then, just like the lose 10 pounds, gain back 20, you lost 10 pounds of clutter, and now you've gained back 20 or more.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's the
Yeah.
same.
It's interesting, isn't it? It's fascinating. Well, thank you so much for being a guest on the Art of Content Healing. I have loved speaking to you. I didn't know a lot about Feng Shui, so I knew this was just going to go wherever we flowed with it, and I know that the listeners will get a massive amount out of that. And if you want to contact Krystal, all her details will be in the links below. And you want to know more about Feng Shui, make sure you're following her. And thank you so much, beautiful. I absolutely loved it. So we thank you very guys. This is another episode of the Art of Quantum Healing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Must have been a delay. I'm like
there was a big delay. And so I'm sorry about the pause there.
Okay. Beautiful. All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening, and we look forward to bringing you some more divine episodes. Thank you so much, Krystal. Mwah.
Thank you so much for listening to today's podcast. Please make sure to subscribe to my channel and help us grow the community by sharing it with your friends. I am your host, Leisa Nadler, and this is the Art of Quantum Healing.